He was a millionaire who had everything anyone could dream of, except true love. The millionaire decides to create a contest for virgin women to find a wife. But the woman he fell in love with wasn't part of the contest. If this story caught your interest, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and tell us which city you're watching from. The New York skyline glistened behind Maxwell Bennett as he gazed out from his penthouse office. 60 floors above Manhattan, the world seemed small, controllable, exactly how he liked it. At 34, Maxwell had everything money could buy: a thriving tech empire, real estate spanning 3 continents, and a face that had graced the cover of Fortune magazine twice this year alone. "Mr. Bennett, they're ready for you in the conference room," his assistant announced through the intercom. Maxwell straightened his custom Tom Ford suit and checked his reflection in the glass. His chiseled jawline and piercing blue eyes stared back at him, features that had helped open as many doors as his billions. With practiced confidence, he strode down the hallway where 12 of New York's top marketing executives waited to present their ideas for his latest venture. But today wasn't about another product launch or acquisition. This meeting had a far more personal purpose. "Ladies and gentlemen," Maxwell began, his voice commanding immediate attention, "thank you for accepting my invitation. What I'm about to propose might sound unconventional, but I assure you it will be the most talked-about event of the year." He paused, allowing anticipation to build in the room. "I'm looking for a wife, and I want your help finding her." A few awkward chuckles rippled through the room until the executives realized he wasn't joking. "You want us to help you date?" asked Vanessa Pierce, head of his public relations team. "Not date," Maxwell corrected. "I want to find my perfect match through a structured competition. Think of it as The Bachelor meets America's Next Top Model, but with higher stakes and more exclusive criteria." He clicked a remote, and a sleek presentation appeared on the wall behind him. "Project Soulmate," the title read. "The winner becomes Mrs. Bennett with all the privileges that entails," Maxwell continued. "The competition will test intelligence, poise, cultural knowledge, and social grace. But there's one non-negotiable qualification." He paused again. "The candidates must be virtuous in the traditional sense, pure." The room fell silent until Roger Williams, his oldest advisor, spoke up. "You mean virgins?" "Precisely," Maxwell confirmed without a hint of embarrassment. "It's the only way to ensure I find someone who hasn't been corrupted by material interests or status-seeking." Vanessa cleared her throat. "Max, with all due respect, this isn't the 19th century. The public backlash could be—" "The backlash will be outstanding publicity," Maxwell interrupted. "And I don't care what people think. I've had relationships with women who only wanted my money, my connections, or my public image. I'm done with that game." Growing up as the only son of real estate mogul William Bennett, Maxwell had learned early that everything and everyone had a price. His mother had married his father for security and status, enduring years of emotional neglect before quietly disappearing from Maxwell's life when he was 12. His father had promptly replaced her with a series of younger models, each one more beautiful and less substantial than the last. Maxwell had vowed to never repeat his father's mistakes. Yet somehow, at 34, he found himself surrounded by people who saw him as a stepping stone, a trophy, or an ATM machine. His last relationship had ended 6 months ago when he discovered his girlfriend of 2 years had been selling stories about their private life to tabloids. "We'll need to be subtle with the virginity requirement," Roger advised, already calculating damage control. "Perhaps frame it as traditional values or moral integrity." "Frame it however you want," Maxwell said dismissively. "Just make it happen. Budget is unlimited." As the meeting continued, Maxwell's team reluctantly shaped his vision into a workable plan. The competition would be invitation only, with candidates selected from prestigious universities, prominent families, and exclusive social circles. There would be challenges designed to test character, intelligence, and grace under pressure. 2 weeks later, the Bennett selection was announced with carefully crafted press releases and strategic social media teasers. As predicted, public reaction was explosive. Conservative commentators praised Maxwell's return to traditional values, while progressive outlets condemned the competition as regressive and misogynistic. Maxwell didn't care. The controversy only increased applications, which poured in by the thousands. His team vetted each candidate meticulously, conducting background checks that would make the CIA blush. By early June, they had narrowed the field to 50 women, all beautiful, accomplished and, presumably, meeting Maxwell's primary criterion. The competition would officially begin with a gala at his Hamptons estate, where he would meet the candidates and eliminate 20 based on first impressions. The night of the gala arrived, and Maxwell surveyed the transformed grounds of his 10-acre property. White tents dotted the manicured lawn, fairy lights twinkled in the trees, and a string quartet played softly near the Olympic-sized pool. Everything was perfect, exactly as he had specified. At precisely 8 o'clock, the candidates began to arrive. Maxwell stood at the entrance, greeting each woman personally. They were everything his team had promised, poised, beautiful, and eager to impress. Some were clearly nervous, others calculatingly confident. All were dressed impeccably in designer gowns that whispered rather than shouted their wealth and status. "Mr. Bennett, may I present Miss Alexandra Winters from Boston," his assistant announced. A tall blonde with intelligent eyes and a measured smile stepped forward. "It's an honor to meet you, Mr. Bennett. Your work in quantum computing is revolutionary." Maxwell was pleasantly surprised. "You follow quantum computing, Miss Winters?" "I wrote my thesis on potential applications for your Q engine in medical diagnostics," she replied without missing a beat. Maxwell found himself genuinely smiling for the first time that evening. As the introductions continued, he mentally sorted the women into categories: impressive, adequate, and unsuitable. By 10 o'clock, he had met all 50 candidates and was prepared to make his first cuts. He was about to signal Roger when commotion erupted near the catering tent. "I don't care if it's a private party, that seafood tower is melting, and those oysters will poison someone if they sit out any longer." The voice was female, authoritative, and clearly irritated. Maxwell frowned and moved toward the disturbance. A petite woman with wild curly hair was gesturing emphatically at his catering manager, who looked both annoyed and intimidated. "Excuse me," Maxwell interrupted coldly. "This is a private event." The woman turned, and Maxwell was struck by the intensity in her eyes, deep brown with flecks of gold that caught the light. She wasn't conventionally beautiful, but something about her face was arresting. Perhaps the determined set of her jaw or the slight arch of her eyebrow as she assessed him. "And you must be the bachelor looking for a virgin bride," she said, without a trace of the deference he was accustomed to. "I'm not here for your medieval fantasy, Mr. Bennett. I'm trying to prevent your guests from getting food poisoning." Maxwell blinked, momentarily thrown off balance. "And you are?" "Olivia Carter. I'm filling in for the regular health inspector. You're serving seafood outdoors in June without proper refrigeration. That's a violation I can't ignore, even for the great Maxwell Bennett." There was something refreshing about her lack of pretense. She wasn't trying to impress him or get anything from him. She was simply doing her job and clearly didn't care who he was. "I assure you, Ms. Carter, everything here meets the highest standards." "Tell that to the bacteria multiplying on your oysters," she retorted, pushing past him toward the seafood display. "Either move this spread indoors where it's cooler or put it on ice now." Maxwell found himself following her, oddly compelled by her confidence. "Do you have any idea how much planning went into this evening? Do you have any idea how quickly 50 people can be hospitalized with food poisoning?" she countered, grabbing a serving tray and moving shellfish onto it. "Help me with this." To his own surprise, Maxwell found himself picking up another tray. "You're very commanding for someone who works for the health department. And you're very arrogant for someone who doesn't know the difference between safe food handling and a lawsuit waiting to happen," she replied without looking up. As they moved the seafood inside, Maxwell couldn't help noticing how the staff responded to Olivia, with genuine respect rather than the fear-tinged deference they showed him. She knew most of them by name and asked about their families, all while efficiently reorganizing the food presentation. "There," she said finally, stepping back to survey their work. "That should prevent any digestive disasters tonight." She turned to Maxwell, her expression softening slightly. "Your guests can return to competing for the dubious honor of becoming Mrs. Bennett." The subtle criticism in her tone irked him. "You disapprove of my selection process." "I think treating marriage like a game show is sad," she said bluntly. "But it's your life, just keep your shellfish refrigerated while you play it." With that, she walked away, clipboard in hand, leaving Maxwell staring after her. For the first time in recent memory, someone had spoken to him not as a billionaire, not as a potential romantic partner, but simply as a person, and found him wanting. Dada. Sensation was both unsettling and oddly exhilarating. "Mr. Bennett," Roger appeared at his side, "the guests are waiting for your announcement." Maxwell nodded, forcing his attention back to the competition, but as he returned to the gala to eliminate 20 perfectly suitable candidates, he found himself distracted by thoughts of the health inspector, who had shown not the slightest interest in becoming the next Mrs. Bennett. Later that night, after the last guest had departed, Maxwell sat alone in his study, swirling amber liquid in a crystal tumbler. The evening had gone exactly according to plan. He had narrowed the field to 30 exceptional women, all eager to please him, all meeting his exacting standards. So why couldn't he stop thinking about the curly-haired health inspector who had called his competition medieval and his seafood dangerous? 3 weeks into the Bennett selection, Maxwell found himself unexpectedly bored. The remaining 20 candidates were impeccable on paper: Ivy League educations, philanthropic interests, and family pedigrees that would impress even his late father. Yet something was missing. "Today's challenge will test their knowledge of fine arts and culture," Roger explained, as they walked through the Metropolitan Museum of Art after hours. Maxwell had arranged exclusive access for the competition. Each woman will guide you through their favorite exhibit, demonstrating their cultural expertise and conversational abilities. Maxwell nodded absently, his thoughts drifting to Olivia Carter. He'd had his team look into her after the gala incident, a move that would have horrified him had he stopped to examine his motivation. She was 31, graduated from Cornell, with a degree in environmental health, divorced with no children, and supplemented her government job by teaching cooking classes at a community center in Brooklyn. "Are you listening, Max?" Roger's voice cut through his thoughts. "Of course," Maxwell replied smoothly. "Cultural expertise, conversational abilities, very important." Roger frowned. "You seem distracted lately. Is something wrong with the candidates?" "They're perfect," Maxwell said, and that was precisely the problem. Their perfection felt rehearsed, calculated, designed specifically to please him. Even their flaws seemed deliberately chosen to be endearing rather than authentic. The day's challenge proceeded as planned. Maxwell was guided through Egyptian artifacts, Renaissance paintings, and modern installations, each woman expertly reciting historical contexts and artistic significance. Alexandra Winters impressed him with her genuine passion for abstract expressionism. Diana Sullivan charmed him with witty observations about Greek sculpture. Every interaction was pleasant, engaging, and utterly predictable. By evening, Maxwell had eliminated 5 more candidates, leaving 15 in the competition. The remaining women were escorted to their luxury accommodations, while Maxwell retreated to his office, ostensibly to review profiles for the next round. Instead, he found himself searching for information about Brooklyn community cooking classes. 2. Days later, Maxwell Bennett, disguised in jeans, a plain button-down shirt, and glasses he didn't need, walked into the Williamsburg Community Center. He had told his security team he was taking a personal day and left his usual entourage behind. No one in the busy center recognized the man, whose face regularly appeared in business magazines and society pages. The cooking class was already underway when he slipped in and took an empty station at the back. Olivia stood at the front, demonstrating knife skills with practiced ease. "Remember, the knife does the work. You just guide it," she was saying, her curls pulled back in a messy bun. "And watch your fingers. I don't care how fancy your technique is if you're missing a fingertip at the end of class." The other students, a mix of ages and backgrounds, laughed appreciatively. Maxwell observed how different she looked here, compared to their first meeting. In her element, she was relaxed, confident, almost radiant. "New student in the back," Olivia called out, pointing her knife in Maxwell's direction. "We don't allow spectators. Either cook or leave." Maxwell stepped forward, removing his glasses. "I'd like to cook." Recognition flashed in Olivia's eyes, followed quickly by suspicion. "Well, if it isn't the billionaire bachelor. Slumming it in Brooklyn today?" Several heads turned, whispers erupting around the room. "I'm here to learn," Maxwell said, meeting her challenging gaze. Olivia seemed to consider him for a moment before nodding curtly. "Fine. We're making pasta from scratch. Everything you need is at your station. Try not to buy the building while you're here." The class chuckled, and Maxwell felt his face warm. It was a novel sensation, being the subject of amusement rather than admiration or envy. For the next 2 hours, Maxwell struggled with tasks that his personal chef handled effortlessly. His dough was too dry, then too sticky. His pasta sheets emerged from the machine unevenly thick. He cut his finger while dicing garlic and had to wear a ridiculous cartoon bandage that Olivia provided with poorly concealed amusement. Yet strangely, he enjoyed every minute of it. There was something refreshingly honest about the experience. The immediate feedback, of dough that wouldn't cooperate, the impossible-to-fake results of his clumsy technique. No one cared about his net worth or his business acumen here. He was just another student, and a below-average one at that. Olivia made her way around the room, offering guidance and corrections. When she reached Maxwell's station, she surveyed his misshapen pasta with a raised eyebrow. "Your first time cooking anything, Mr. Bennett?" "Maxwell," he corrected. "And no, I've cooked before." It wasn't entirely a lie. He'd scrambled eggs in college once. She hummed skeptically, taking his knife and demonstrating the proper way to mince herbs. Her hands moved with confidence, quick and precise. "Like this. Try again." Maxwell mimicked her movements, aware of her watching critically. "Better," she conceded. "Though I'm curious why a man who probably employs an army of chefs is spending his Thursday night in my basic pasta class." "Maybe I wanted to see the health inspector in her natural habitat," he replied with a small smile. "This isn't my natural habitat," she corrected. "Just my second job. Some of us need those." "And what is your natural habitat?" Maxwell found himself genuinely curious. A guarded look crossed her face. "That's not information I share with strangers who drop in unannounced." She moved on to the next student, leaving Maxwell staring after her. By the end of class, Maxwell had produced a serviceable, if aesthetically challenged, plate of fettuccine with herb butter sauce. He stayed behind as the other students left, methodically cleaning his station, as he'd observed Olivia instructing everyone to do. "You didn't answer my question," Olivia said, as she wiped down the demonstration counter. The room was empty now except for the two of them. "Why are you really here?" Maxwell considered deflecting, but found himself uncharacteristically inclined toward honesty. "You made an impression at the gala. You treated me like a regular person." "You are a regular person," she said, raising those expressive eyebrows. "Just one with an irregular bank account and an extremely questionable approach to finding a wife." There it was again, that directness that both challenged and intrigued him. "Have dinner with me," Maxwell said suddenly. Olivia laughed, the sound genuine and warm. "No." "Why not?" "Because I'm not interested in being contestant number 16 in your weird pageant," she replied, gathering her belongings. "And because men like you don't actually want to date women like me. You want to play out some kind of slumming it fantasy before you marry someone from your world." The assessment stung, partly because he wasn't entirely sure she was wrong. "That's not what I'm proposing, isn't it?" She slung her bag over her shoulder. "Your competition is all over social media. Those women are beautiful, accomplished, and eager to please you. What exactly would you want with a divorced health inspector who teaches cooking on the side to make rent?" "A genuine conversation. For starters," Maxwell said, "do you know how rare that is in my world?" Something in his tone must have reached her because her expression softened slightly. "That sounds like a you problem, not a me problem." "Have dinner with me," he repeated, "not as a contestant, not as whatever you think this is. Just dinner, a conversation between two adults." Olivia studied him for a long moment. I have plans tomorrow. Cancel them. She rolled her eyes. And there's the entitled billionaire I expected. I don't cancel plans for anyone, especially not men who think my time is less valuable than theirs. Maxwell was unused to rejection, but something about her. Resistance made him more determined rather than less. Saturday then, name the restaurant. If I agree to one dinner, will you stop stalking my cooking classes? I prefer to think of it as expanding my culinary horizons. A reluctant smile tugged at the corner of her mouth. Fine, one dinner, but I choose the place, and you come alone. No security, no assistance, no paparazzi. Done, Maxwell agreed. Quickly, before she could change her mind, Saturday, 7 p.m., Emilio's on Bedford Avenue. She headed toward the door. And Maxwell, if this is some kind of game or social experiment, I will throw more than shellfish at you. After she left, Maxwell stood alone in the community center kitchen, surrounded by the unfamiliar scents of garlic and herbs, realizing he'd just worked harder to secure a dinner date than he had for most business acquisitions. Meanwhile, the Bennett selection continued without his full attention. The production team executed the planned challenges, a charity auction, a cooking competition, which now struck Maxwell as ironically fitting, a debate on current events. Maxwell went through the motions, evaluating and eliminating candidates with practiced charm, but his mind frequently drifted to Saturday's dinner. Roger noticed his distraction during a debriefing session. The network is thrilled with the footage so far, Roger reported. Ratings are exceeding projections. We're down to 10 candidates, all exceptional. Maxwell responded non-committally, checking his watch. He had a meeting with his tailor in 20 minutes to select a suitably casual outfit for Emilio's restaurant. His team informed him had plastic chairs and checkered tablecloths. Max, Roger said sharply, is there something you're not telling me? You seemed fully committed to this process a month ago, and now you're barely present. Maxwell considered confiding in Roger about Olivia, but decided against it. His advisor would only try to talk him out of seeing her, citing risks to the competition's integrity and his public image. Just dealing with some unexpected business developments, Maxwell lied smoothly. Nothing to worry about. Saturday arrived with uncharacteristic June rain that turned the city streets slick and reflective. Maxwell dismissed his driver and took a rideshare to Williamsburg, arriving at Emilio's 5 minutes early. The restaurant was exactly as his team had described, a small family-owned Italian place with 0 Michelin stars and decades of local loyalty. Olivia arrived precisely on time, shaking raindrops from her umbrella. She wore jeans, a simple green blouse that brought out the gold flecks in her eyes, and minimal makeup. Among the women Maxwell typically dated, this level of casual dress would be reserved for yacht weekends or candid Instagram photos. Yatu, Olivia, it looked completely natural. You actually came, she observed, sliding into the booth across from him, and without an entourage. I'm impressed. I said I would, Maxwell replied, oddly pleased by her approval, though I admit this isn't my usual dining experience. Let me guess, your usual involves sommelier consultations and dishes with unpronounceable French names. Something like that, he acknowledged with a small smile. Emilio himself took their order, spaghetti carbonara for Olivia and lasagna for Maxwell, plus a bottle of house red wine that cost less than Maxwell's socks. The old man treated Olivia like family, kissing her cheek and telling her in heavily accented English that she was too thin. Regular here? Maxwell asked after Emilio left. Since my divorce, Olivia replied, then seemed to regret the admission. So how's the wife hunt going? Narrowed it down to the final virgins yet? Maxwell winced. The virginity requirement wasn't my finest idea. You think? Olivia's eyes widened in mock surprise. What gave it away? The nationwide ridicule or the fact that it's creepy and misogynistic? When you put it that way, Maxwell took a sip of the surprisingly decent wine. The whole competition was a reaction to some bad experiences. I thought I could control the process, eliminate the risks. Ah yes, because treating marriage like a corporate merger always works out so well, Olivia said, but her tone held more curiosity than judgment now. What were you really looking for? The question caught Maxwell off guard. No one had asked him that, not his team, not the candidates, not even himself. Everyone had accepted his stated criteria without questioning the deeper motivation. "Someone real," he said finally. "Someone who wants me, not what I represent." Olivia studied him across the table, the candlelight reflecting in her eyes. "And you thought you'd find that through a competition based entirely on what these women represent. To you?" Her insight was uncomfortably accurate. "When you put it like that, it does sound contradictory." "It's more than contradictory. It's sad," Olivia said, but gently now. "You can't filter for authenticity, Maxwell. That's not how it works." Their food arrived, simple and aromatic. Maxwell watched Olivia close her eyes as she took her first bite, clearly savoring the familiar flavors. There was something captivating about her unguarded enjoyment. "So, how does it work, then?" he asked when she opened her eyes. "Finding someone real?" Olivia twirled pasta around her fork, considering. "You show up as yourself, not as your money or your name or your power, just yourself, and you see who shows up for that person." "That's easier said than done in my position." "I know," she said, surprising him with her understanding. "But that doesn't make it any less necessary." Dinner at Emilio's stretched into 3 hours of conversation that covered everything from childhood memories to favorite books. Maxwell found himself sharing stories he'd never told anyone, about his mother's departure, his father's emotional absence, his own fear of repeating their mistakes. Olivia listened without judgment, offering insights that were sometimes uncomfortable but always honest. In return, she shared her own history, growing up in a middle-class neighborhood in Queens, marrying her college sweetheart at 23, divorcing at 28 when they realized they'd grown into different people with incompatible dreams. He wanted the suburban life, picket fence, golden retriever, 2.5 kids, she explained. "I wanted to travel, to experience everything. Neither of us was wrong, just wrong for each other." By the time they stepped outside, the rain had stopped and the streets glistened under the streetlights. Neither seemed eager to end the evening. "Walk." "With me?" Olivia suggested, gesturing toward the nearby waterfront park. They strolled along the East River, the Manhattan skyline glittering across the water. Several of those gleaming towers belonged to Maxwell, but for once he wasn't thinking about real estate valuations or investment portfolios. "So what do you want, Olivia Carter?" he asked as they leaned against the railing, watching the water. "If not the picket fence and golden retriever?" She considered the question, her profile thoughtful in the dim light. "I want to open my own restaurant someday. Nothing fancy, just good, honest food that brings people together. A place where everyone feels welcome regardless of their bank account." She glanced at him with a self-deprecating smile. "Cliché, I know." "It's not cliché," Maxwell said, surprised by how much he wanted this for her. "It's authentic, like you." Olivia turned to face him fully, her expression suddenly serious. "What are you doing here with me, Maxwell? Really?" The question hung between them, demanding honesty. Maxwell could have offered a charming deflection, but found he didn't want to. "I don't know," he admitted. "I just know that when I'm with you, I feel more like myself than I have in years." Something shifted in her eyes, a softening, a vulnerability quickly masked. "That's a dangerous thing to say to someone you barely know." "Is it?" Maxwell stepped closer. "Or is it the most honest thing I've said in a long time?" The moment stretched between them, electric with possibility. Then Olivia stepped back, creating distance. "You're still in the middle of a national competition to find a wife," she reminded him. 10 women are waiting for you to choose one of them. That's your reality, Maxwell, not this, whatever this. The reminder landed like cold water. She was right, of course. The competition continued, filmed for a streaming special, contracts signed, expectations established. Yet standing here with Olivia, it all seemed increasingly absurd. "What if I ended it?" he asked impulsively. Olivia laughed, the sound tinged with disbelief. "You can't just walk away from something like that." "Why not? It's my competition." "Because that's not how the real world works," she countered. "You made commitments. There are consequences to breaking them." She checked her watch. "I should get home. I have an early shift tomorrow." Maxwell wanted to argue to keep her with him, but recognized the wisdom in her words. "Can I see you again?" She hesitated, clearly conflicted. "Finish your competition, Maxwell. Figure out what you really want. Then, maybe." It wasn't a no, but it wasn't quite a yes either. Maxwell watched her walk away, feeling both frustrated and oddly hopeful. The next morning, Maxwell called an emergency meeting with his production team. "I want to accelerate the competition," he announced. "Final elimination rounds this week." "A finale next Saturday?" Roger looked stunned. "That's 3 weeks ahead of schedule. The network won't—" "The network will adjust," Maxwell interrupted. "I'm done dragging this out. Make it happen." No one dared question his sudden urgency, though speculation ran rampant behind closed doors. The production schedule was reworked, challenges condensed, and the remaining 10 candidates informed of the new timeline. The accelerated pace left Maxwell little time to pursue Olivia, though not for lack of trying. He sent her messages that went unanswered. He even coincidentally appeared at her community center cooking class again, only to discover she had swapped shifts with another instructor. Meanwhile, the competition narrowed to 5 finalists, then 3. Alexandra Winters emerged as the clear frontrunner, brilliant, poised, and genuinely kind. Under different circumstances, Maxwell might have found her perfect. Now he merely found her pleasant company. 3 days before the finale, Maxwell sat in his office reviewing dossiers on the remaining candidates when his assistant announced an unexpected visitor. "Mr. Bennett, there's an Olivia Carter here to see you. She doesn't have an appointment, but she's quite insistent." Maxwell's heart rate quickened embarrassingly. "Send her in." Olivia entered, looking distinctly uncomfortable in the opulent surroundings of his corporate headquarters. She wore her health department uniform, khaki pants and a navy polo shirt with an official badge. "This is a professional visit," she stated, before he could speak. "We've received complaints about food safety at your production facilities." Maxwell blinked, caught off guard. "My production facilities have state-of-the-art kitchens. Tell that to the 3 cases of food poisoning reported after your garden party challenge," she replied. "All business. I need to inspect the facilities where your catering staff prepares meals for the contestants." There was something off about her demeanor, a stiffness that hadn't been present even during their first contentious meeting. "Of course," Maxwell agreed, studying her expression. "I'll have someone escort you." "Thank you." Olivia refused to meet his eyes directly. As he reached for his phone to summon an assistant, Maxwell decided to take a risk. "You're avoiding me." Olivia finally looked at him, a flash of genuine emotion breaking through her professional mask. "Can you blame me? This is complicated." "It doesn't have to be," Maxwell said softly. "Easy for you to say. Your face isn't all over the tabloids with speculation about which perfect woman you're going to marry." She fidgeted with her clipboard. "I saw the latest coverage. Alexandra Winters is the favorite to win. She seems suitable." There was a vulnerability in her voice that Maxwell had never heard before. "Is that why you're here? To see if the rumors are true?" "I told you this is a professional visit," Olivia insisted, but her eyes told a different story. Maxwell stepped closer. "The finale is this Saturday. After that, the competition is over." "And then what?" she challenged. "You choose no one and the billionaire playboy strikes again. Or you choose someone and break her heart later when you get bored. Either way, it's a mess I don't need in my life." Her words stung, but Maxwell recognized the fear behind them. What if there's a third option? Before she could respond, the door opened and Roger entered, stopping short at the sight of Olivia. "Sorry to interrupt," Roger said, his gaze moving suspiciously between them. "Max, we need to finalize the arrangements for Saturday. The network executives want to—" He paused, recognition dawning. "You're the health inspector from the gala." "She's here on official business," Maxwell said quickly. "Food safety inspection for our catering facilities." Roger's eyes narrowed. "I'll have Mrs. Davis escort you to the kitchens," he told Olivia. Then turned back to Maxwell. "When you're finished, we really need to discuss the finale." After Roger and Olivia left, Maxwell sat heavily in his chair, knowing his advisor wasn't fooled. Sure enough, Roger returned 30 minutes later, his expression grim. "Want to tell me what's really going on with you and the health inspector?" Maxwell considered denial but opted for a partial truth. "We've become friends." "Friends," Roger repeated skeptically. "Max, I've known you since you were in college. I've never seen you look at any woman the way you looked at her just now, certainly not any of the actual contestants." "It's complicated." "It's a disaster waiting to happen," Roger corrected. "Do you have any idea what this would do to your reputation? To the Bennett brand? You've spent millions on this competition, made a public spectacle of your search for the perfect wife, and now you're what? Falling for a government employee who inspects kitchens for a living." Put that way, it did sound absurd, yet Maxwell couldn't bring himself to care. "The brand will survive," he said dismissively. Roger's expression hardened. "Your father worked his entire life to build this empire. He entrusted it to you because he believed you would protect and grow it, not risk it on romantic whims." The mention of his father hit a nerve. William Bennett had been a ruthless businessman who valued success above all else, including family happiness. Maxwell had spent his life trying to earn his father's approval, even after his passing 5 years ago. "My father married for status and connections," Maxwell said quietly. "Look how well that turned out for everyone involved." "Your mother left because she was weak," Roger said harshly. "She couldn't handle the responsibilities that came with the Bennett name. Is that what you want again? Someone who'll run when things get difficult? Someone who doesn't understand your world?" Maxwell stood, anger flaring unexpectedly. "My mother left because my father treated her like an accessory rather than a partner, and don't presume to know what Olivia would or wouldn't understand." "So it's Olivia now," Roger noted with a sigh. "Max, be reasonable. The finale is 3 days away. The network has invested millions. The public is waiting for your choice. You can't throw that away for someone you barely know." "I know her better than any of the contestants," Maxwell argued, surprising himself with the realization that it was true. "That's not saying much," Roger countered. "Look, just get through the finale. Make your choice, fulfill your contractual obligations. Then if you still want to pursue whatever this is, at least you'll have met your commitments." It was the pragmatic solution, and Maxwell knew it. Yet something felt fundamentally wrong about proceeding with a charade when his heart was elsewhere. "I need time to think," he said finally. Roger nodded, relief evident in his expression. "Take the day, but remember, there's more at stake than just your personal feelings." After Roger left, Maxwell cancelled his remaining meetings and retreated to his penthouse. From his private terrace, he could see the whole city spread before him, a concrete empire of which he controlled a significant portion. His father had taught him that everything had a price, that value was measured in assets and influence. But what was the value of waking up each day next to someone chosen for their credentials rather than their capacity to challenge and inspire him? What was the price of authenticity in a world built on carefully maintained appearances? That evening, his phone chimed with a message from an unknown number. "Inspection complete. Your facilities passed, barely." For the record, this wasn't an excuse to see you. Maxwell smiled despite himself and typed a response. "Would it be an excuse if I asked you to dinner again?" Her reply came surprisingly quickly. "Still have a fiancé-to-be to choose. Good luck with that." "What if I don't want to choose?" "Any of them." This time the pause was longer. Finally, "Then don't. But do it because it's what you want, not because of me. I won't be responsible for your decisions." Her words stayed with him through a restless night and into the following day's rehearsal for the finale. He went through the motions mechanically, barely registering the elaborate preparations transforming his Hamptons estate into a fairy tale setting for the final selection. The remaining 3 contestants, Alexandra, Diana, and Rebecca, were housed in separate guest cottages on the property, each attended by stylists, makeup artists, and coaches, preparing them for their final appearances. Maxwell avoided them, claiming work obligations that kept him sequestered in his study. In truth, he was researching commercial real estate in Brooklyn. On Friday, the day before the finale, Maxwell was reviewing a property listing when Roger burst into his study without knocking. "Have you seen this?" he demanded, tossing a tablet onto Maxwell's desk. The screen displayed a gossip blog with the headline, "Bennett Selection Scandal, Billionaire Bachelor's Secret Brooklyn Fling." Below was a grainy photo of Maxwell and Olivia walking by the East River. Maxwell's stomach dropped. How did they get this? Does it matter? It's out there now. Roger paced the room. We need damage control immediately. I suggest we frame it as a business meeting. Maybe you're donating to her community center or something. Maxwell stared at the photo. They weren't even touching, yet something about their body language conveyed an intimacy that was impossible to deny. He could imagine how it looked to outsiders, the billionaire running his very public wife search while secretly meeting a woman who wasn't part of the competition. "No," he said finally. "No what?" Roger demanded. "No damage control, no lies." Maxwell looked up from the tablet. "I'm ending the competition tomorrow." Roger's face flushed red. "You can't be serious. The network will sue. The contestants will sue. The public will move on to the next scandal by Monday," Maxwell interrupted. "As for the rest, I'll handle it. Pay whatever penalties the contracts require." "This isn't just about money, Max. This is about your reputation, your father's legacy." "My father's legacy," Maxwell repeated, a strange calm settling over him. "Do you know what I remember most about my father, Roger? Not his business acumen, not his wealth. I remember how he looked at my mother's empty chair at dinner for years after she left. I remember how he cycled through relationships that never touched him beyond the surface. I remember him asking me on his deathbed if I thought he'd been a good father and not knowing how to answer." Roger's expression softened slightly. "Your father was complicated, but he always wanted what was best for you." "No," Maxwell said gently. "He wanted what he thought was best for the Bennett name. There's a difference." A tense silence filled the room before Roger spoke again. His voice resigned. "What do you want me to do?" "Arrange a private meeting with the 3 finalists tonight. I owe them an explanation in person before this goes public." Maxwell paused. "And find out where the health department conducts site inspections on Saturday mornings." Roger shook his head, a reluctant smile tugging at his lips. "You're really going to throw away everything for this woman?" "Not throwing away," Maxwell corrected. "Just reprioritizing." That evening, Maxwell met with Alexandra, Diana, and Rebecca in the estate's conservatory. Their expressions as he explained his decision ranged from shock to anger to tearful disappointment. "So all of this was for nothing?" Diana demanded, her voice sharp with hurt. "Not nothing," Maxwell said sincerely. "I've gained perspective I desperately needed, and I hope you've had experiences that were valuable, regardless of the outcome." Alexandra studied him thoughtfully. "It's the health inspector, isn't it? From the gala." Maxwell hesitated, then nodded. "I didn't plan this, it just happened." "Love usually does," Alexandra said, surprising him with her grace. "But next time, maybe skip the national competition and just try online dating like a normal person." Her unexpected humor broke the tension, allowing the conversation to end on surprisingly amicable terms. Maxwell arranged generous compensation packages for all 3 women, acknowledging the time and emotional investment they had made. Later, that night, as his team scrambled to dismantle the elaborate finale setup and inform the network of the cancellation, Maxwell stood alone on his terrace, watching distant lightning flash over the Atlantic. For the first time in months, perhaps years, he felt truly at peace with the decision. Now he just had to hope Olivia would give him a chance to explain it to her in person. Saturday morning dawned clear and bright, a stark contrast to the media storm erupting across entertainment news outlets. "Bennett selection cancelled. Billionaire abandons bride search," screamed the headlines, accompanied by speculation ranging from wildly inaccurate to uncomfortably close to the truth. Maxwell ignored the barrage of calls and messages flooding his phone as he drove himself, another rarity, to the Brooklyn address Roger had reluctantly provided. The nondescript government building housed various municipal offices, including the Department of Health's inspection headquarters. Inside, fluorescent lights buzzed overhead as Maxwell approached the security desk. "I'm looking for Olivia Carter." The guard eyed him suspiciously. Do you have an appointment? No, but it's important that I speak with her. Everyone thinks their food inspection is important, the guard muttered, reaching for his phone. Name? Maxwell Bennett. The guard's eyebrows shot up in recognition. The guy from the TV thing with the virgins? Maxwell winced. That would be me, yes. After a brief phone conversation filled with surprised glances in Maxwell's direction, the guard directed him to the 4th floor. Maxwell found Olivia in a small office she shared with 2 other inspectors, both of whom were conveniently absent. She looked up from her computer, her expression a complicated mix of surprise, wariness, and something else he couldn't quite identify. "Let me guess," she said, leaning back in her chair. "You're here about the gossip blog." "No," Maxwell replied. "I'm here about us." Olivia's eyes widened slightly. "There is no us, Maxwell." "There could be," he said simply, stepping further into the small office. "I ended the competition." She blinked, clearly caught off guard. "You? What? Cancelled it?" "Last night. No winner, no Mrs. Bennett. Just over." Olivia stared at him for a long moment, then shook her head. "That's insane. Do you have any idea how much money—" "I don't care about the money," Maxwell interrupted. "I care about being honest. With myself, with the public, and most importantly, with you." A range of emotions flickered across her face. "And what exactly are you being honest about?" "That I've spent my life chasing a version of perfection that doesn't exist and wouldn't make me happy if it did." Maxwell moved closer, stopping at the edge of her desk. "That I've been hiding behind my wealth and status because I was afraid of being vulnerable. That I've never met anyone who makes me feel the way you do, challenged, seen, alive." Olivia's professional composure was clearly cracking, but she made one last attempt to maintain it. "Maxwell, you barely know me." "I know enough," he insisted. "I know you're passionate about food safety of all things. I know you stay up late reading mystery novels and get up early to run in Prospect Park. I know you call your mother every Sunday and volunteer at an animal shelter, even though your apartment building doesn't allow pets." Her eyes widened. "How do you—" "I had you investigated after the gala," Maxwell admitted, having the grace to look embarrassed. "Not my proudest moment, but I was intrigued." "That's both creepy and strangely flattering," Olivia said, the ghost of a smile, playing on her lips. "I've been called worse," Maxwell replied, encouraged by her reaction. "Look, I'm not asking you to marry me or move into my penthouse or change who you are. I'm just asking for a chance, a real chance to see where this could go." Olivia stood up, putting them at eye level. "And what about your world? The board meetings and charity galas and paparazzi? You think someone like me fits into that life?" "Maybe not," Maxwell acknowledged. "Maybe it's my life that needs to change to fit someone like you." A knock at the door interrupted them. Olivia's supervisor poked her head in, looking apologetic. "Sorry to interrupt, Ms. Carter, but there's a situation at the Barclays Center concessions that needs immediate attention." She glanced at Maxwell with barely concealed curiosity. "It can wait a few minutes if you're busy." "No, it's fine," Olivia said quickly. "Food safety first, right? I'll grab my kit." Her supervisor nodded and retreated, leaving them alone. Again. "Duty calls," Olivia said, reaching for her inspection bag. Maxwell felt a surge of panic at the thought of her walking away again. "Have dinner with me tonight, or lunch, or coffee, anything." Olivia hesitated, then sighed. "This is crazy, you know that, right? The billionaire and the health inspector." "Crazier things have happened." "Name one." "I created a national competition to find a virgin bride," Maxwell offered with a self-deprecating smile. Olivia laughed, the sound breaking through the last of her defenses. "Fair point." She grabbed a sticky note from her desk and scribbled something on it. "My address, 7 o'clock. Don't bring anything expensive, no champagne, no jewelry, no rare flowers, just yourself." Maxwell took the note, feeling absurdly like a teenager who'd just been given his crush's phone number. "Just myself, I can do that." "We'll see," Olivia said, a challenge in her eyes as she brushed past him toward the door. Most men find that harder than they expect. Maxwell spent the day in a state of nervous anticipation he hadn't experienced since his first business acquisition at 22. He ignored the continuing media frenzy, delegating all communication to his PR team with strict instructions to respect the privacy of both the contestants and Olivia. At 6:55 p.m., he stood outside Olivia's fourth-floor walk-up in Park Slope, empty-handed as instructed. The building was well-maintained but modest, the kind of place he might have demolished to build luxury condominiums in his former life. Olivia answered his knock wearing jeans and a soft green sweater, her curly hair loose around her shoulders. Behind her, Maxwell glimpsed a small but warmly decorated apartment filled with books, plants, and eclectic artwork. "You actually came alone," she observed, stepping aside to let him in. "No security detail, no assistant, no gift basket. I'm impressed." "I follow instructions well when properly motivated," Maxwell replied, taking in the details of her home, the well-worn cookbook collection in the kitchen, the mismatched furniture, that somehow worked together, the framed photos of Olivia with family and friends. This space was everything his sterile penthouse wasn't: lived in, personal, filled with evidence of a life built on relationships rather than acquisitions. "I'm making paella," Olivia said, moving to the kitchen where ingredients were already arranged on the counter. "You can help or watch, but fair warning, I expect actual assistance if you volunteer." "I'll help," Maxwell said immediately, shrugging off his jacket. "Though I should warn you, my pasta skills are still questionable at best. We'll stick to vegetable chopping then." She handed him a knife and a cutting board. "Show me what you learned in class." For the next hour they worked side by side. In her tiny kitchen, Maxwell following her instructions with uncharacteristic deference. The simple domesticity of the scene, the sizzle of olive oil, the aroma of saffron and garlic, their shoulders occasionally brushing in the small space, felt more intimate than any elaborate date he'd ever planned. "So," Olivia said as they finally sat down to eat, "now that you've dramatically cancelled your reality show and scandalized high society, what's your actual plan?" Maxwell considered the question as he tasted the paella, which was, as expected, delicious. "Professionally, I have some ideas about restructuring the philanthropic arm of Bennett Enterprises. My father saw charity as a tax write-off. I'd like to make it more impactful." "And personally?" Olivia pressed, her eyes not leaving his. "That depends," Maxwell said carefully, "on how open you are to dating someone with a very public reputation for making questionable romantic decisions." Olivia took a sip of wine, her expression thoughtful. "I'd be lying if I said I wasn't concerned about the media circus. I value my privacy." "I understand that," Maxwell said, "and I can't promise the attention will disappear overnight, but I can promise to do everything in my power to shield you from it, to respect your boundaries, and to never treat you as an accessory to my life." Big promises from someone known for treating relationships like business acquisitions, Olivia challenged, though her tone was gentle. "I deserve that," Maxwell acknowledged. "But people can change when they have sufficient motivation." He reached across the table, not quite touching her hand, but leaving his own within reach. "You make me want to be better, Olivia. Not perfect, just better." Olivia studied him for a long moment before slowly placing her hand over his. "I can work with better. Perfect is overrated anyway." The simple touch sent warmth radiating through Maxwell's chest. For the first time in his life, he wasn't calculating next steps or weighing potential outcomes. He was simply present, experiencing a connection that defied his carefully constructed metrics for compatibility. Later, as they stood on her small balcony watching the city lights, Maxwell found himself sharing his latest business research. "There's a commercial space available in Williamsburg," he said, his voice casual despite the weight of what he was suggesting. "Corner location, good foot traffic, previous restaurant infrastructure already in place." Olivia turned to him, her expression wary. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because you mentioned wanting to open your own restaurant someday," Maxwell replied. "A place where everyone feels welcome regardless of their bank account." She shook her head slowly. "Maxwell, I can't accept a restaurant from you. That's not how this works. I'm not offering to buy you a restaurant, he clarified. I'm offering to invest in your dream, as a silent partner, with terms that make sense for both of us. You'd have complete creative control. I'd just provide capital and business guidance if you want it. And if this doesn't work out between us, Olivia challenged, what happens to my restaurant then? It would still be yours, Maxwell said firmly. No strings attached. I may have made poor romantic choices, but I'm still a good businessman. I know potential when I see it, Olivia. Your cooking classes have wait lists. Your understanding of food is intuitive. You could make this work with or without me. I'd just like to help speed up the timeline. Olivia leaned against the railing, silent for a long moment. You're making it very hard to maintain my principles about not mixing business with pleasure. I'm willing to wait, Maxwell said. Get to know me better first. If you decide you trust me with your heart or your business aspirations, the easy offer stands. And if I never do, then I'll have to settle for being the luckiest man in New York who gets to date the most honest woman I've ever met, Maxwell replied, his voice soft but sincere. Olivia turned to face him fully, her expression open and vulnerable in a way he hadn't seen before. I'm scared, she admitted. Not of you exactly, but of what you represent. Your world is so different from mine. Maybe that's not a bad thing, Maxwell suggested. Maybe we both need a little of what the other has. What could I possibly have that you need? Authenticity, Maxwell answered without hesitation. Perspective. The courage to tell a billionaire he's being an idiot when he's being an idiot. A smile tugged at her lips. I am good at that part. Excellent at it, he agreed, stepping closer. And I happen to need that particular service quite regularly. The space between them seemed charged with possibility. Maxwell reached up slowly, giving her every opportunity to pull away, and brushed a wayward curl from her face. I'd like to kiss you now, he said quietly. But only if... Olivia closed the distance between them, pressing her lips to his with a certainty that took his breath away. The kiss was neither hesitant nor calculated, simply real, like everything else about her. When they finally parted, Maxwell rested his forehead against hers. Does this mean you'll give us a chance? It means I'm willing to see where this goes, Olivia clarified. One day at a time, getting to know each other like normal people. Normal is highly overrated, Maxwell murmured, kissing her again. Says the man who created a national virgin bride competition, she teased against his lips. Maxwell laughed, the sound free and unguarded. I promise that's the last time I'll shop for romance on national television. Good, Olivia said firmly, because the next time you want to find someone special, you might try looking right in front of you first. 6 months later, Olivia's restaurant, Authenticity, opened in Williamsburg to rave reviews. The small, welcoming space with its farm-to-table menu and accessible price points quickly became a neighborhood favorite. Critics praised not only the food, but the atmosphere, a place where bankers and artists, locals and tourists all felt equally at home. Maxwell attended the opening not as a Bennett Enterprises representative or silent investor, but as Olivia's proudly supportive boyfriend. He'd kept his promise to shield her from media attention, though their relationship had eventually become public knowledge. To his surprise, the story of the billionaire who cancelled his elaborate wife search for a straight-talking health inspector had captured the public's imagination in a largely positive way. Roger had eventually come around as well, especially after seeing how Maxwell's relationship with Olivia had positively influenced his business decisions. Bennett Enterprises was thriving under a new philosophy that balanced profit with purpose, and Maxwell's reputation had evolved from playboy billionaire to thoughtful industry leader. As for Maxwell and Olivia, they continued to navigate the complexities of their different worlds, sometimes stumbling, occasionally arguing, but always finding their way back to the honesty that had drawn them together. Any regrets? Olivia asked one evening as they sat in her restaurant after closing, sharing the last bottle of wine and reflecting on the journey that had brought them to this point. Maxwell looked around the space she had created, then back at the woman who had changed his definition of perfection. Only that I wasted so much time looking for something that was never what I really needed. And what do you need? Olivia asked, her eyes holding his. This, Maxwell said simply, taking her hand. Not perfection, just reality, messy, unpredictable, and infinitely more valuable than anything I tried to engineer. Olivia smiled, the gold flecks in her eyes catching the candlelight. I think I can work with that. For a man who had spent his life pursuing flawless acquisitions, Maxwell Bennett had finally discovered the most valuable truth of all. Real love existed not in perfect symmetry, but in the beautiful dissonance of two authentic souls finding their way together, one imperfect day at a time. Fim de Historia. Dear listeners, we hope you've been captivated by Maxwell and Olivia's journey from artificial selection to authentic connection. For more stories that explore the complexities of modern relationships and the courage it takes to choose love over perfection, we've created a special playlist you'll find by clicking to your left. If this story touched your heart, please subscribe to our channel and like this video. Every day we bring you unique narratives that dive deep into the human experience and challenge our perceptions of what truly matters in life. What would you